Hey everybody, so there's something that I kind of want to talk about. As you may have seen from my streams, I was raiding with a guild called Hand of Algalon on Wormrest Accord. I don't know if they have any other guilds on different servers. I think they might have one on Alliance. But anyway, all of that stuff, there we go. All of that stuff isn't really important. What is important is what I want to talk about today. Now, the other day in the guild Discord, there was a message saying that the raid team, which myself and my wife were a part of, would be moving on to Heroic Nyloda. That's fine. The only problem with that is that they have still not killed normal mode N'Zoth. I think that they found N'Zoth too difficult and just wanted to get on to Heroic, that way they could log the kills and maybe get some gear. Now, in my opinion, you shouldn't really be moving on to Heroic until you have downed the last boss in normal. That's progression. That's what progression is. Not skipping the ones that you either don't want to do or are too difficult for you to do and moving on to the next tier up. That doesn't agree with the whole theory of progression. But again, that isn't even the point. Another one of the issues is that our raid leaders that happen to be both of the tanks were unavailable last week, and the raid leader for the other group came in to lead it, whom in my opinion is not very experienced. They basically watch a YouTube video and think that they know how to do everything. That's not how that works, but again, whatever. And then they took our lockout from our group over to their group because their group could not get past Il'gynoth, and when they did, they had a lot of trouble, and could also not get past Carapace. So they used our lockout to bypass Carapace. So there's that. Now, just the other day in Discord, the raid leader for our group had posted that they were going to be going through people's logs from last week and cutting people off the team who did not meet their DPS requirements. The most immediate thing wrong with this is the fact that week-old logs are inaccurate. A lot of people had gotten upgrades since a week ago. And regardless of how much people do or don't want to believe it, well, let me put this in a different way. If you believe that gear has nothing to do with your performance as far as how much DPS you are doing goes, you're wrong. Gear has a lot to do with it. Obviously, a 430 will do less damage than a 450, and so on and so forth. So gear is a large part of it. There are three parts that make that up, in my opinion. One of them is, do you have the gear? Two of them is, can you run your rotation? Three of them is, can you complete the mechanics of the boss fight while doing your rotation and having the gear? Obviously, all those things go hand in hand. Those are the three major parts of it. So it's not down to any one particular thing. However, moving along, they said that they would message people personally to discuss whether they were being cut from the team or not and why. So, I woke up and I got a message from from the raid leader saying that I was going to be cut from the team because my damage isn't up to par. So I said, well, you are aware that you're reading logs from last week, before I had Mythic 10 pants, before I had a better trinket, before I had all my essences and cloak upgraded. You were aware that I came back to BFA maybe a month ago, so I had to work double time to catch up on everything. So of course I'm not going to be as geared as other people are. But I have a lot better gear than I did last week. I got a 460 out of my Mythic Plus chest. Again, I got a better trinket. All of my essences are rank 2 or 3. And, at that, single target, if it's a easy fight that I don't have to move along a lot in, I can do 51,000 or more. If it's a fight that I have to move around a lot in, maybe 40, somewhere in that neighborhood. So I contested it, obviously, and they said, well, hit up a training dummy real quick. Don't use any raid buffs, just use your food and your flask, and take a screenshot and send it to me. And I'm like, okay, but a target dummy doesn't give you accurate numbers either, because half of your procs don't work most of the time. Corruption won't proc on training dummies, period, at all. So all of that haste that I get while fighting a raid boss, I don't get because corruption isn't fucking procking on a target dummy. Not to mention the armor of boss changes, their damage resistance changes, and a target dummy is not a good way to analyze any of that. But I said, okay, fine, I'll go to a training dummy. And I didn't know where the one in Zoltazar was because I don't really use it. So they told me where it was, and I went and did that. And the first time I was around 40 to 41,000. And they're like, okay, well, do it on this dummy. So I'm like, fine. So I went over and did it on that dummy. And then I was about 38, 39,000. So, give or take 1,000 or so. I was dealing with a little bit of lag, but not enough to make things detrimental, but whatever. And they had previously said or stated that they wanted me to be in the 31 to 36k range. So I did over that both times. And then they said it wasn't good enough, but that they'll let me slide. So, obviously I took offense to that, considering I did more than what they were asking for both times. Now, the way to really gauge that would be, if you have 2 raid days, because their raid days are Saturday evening and Sunday evening. So on Saturday, you take the group and you use that day to figure out how far everybody has come as far as, getting new gear in that week, so on and so forth. And then after raid on Saturday, then you go through the logs, you look at people, what they're dying to, why they're not doing as much DPS, and there is definitely something to be said for a lot of the fights in that raid. Rathian, Mott, Skitra, so on and so forth. And who is this? Well, I don't know. That depends. What guild are you part of? Um, so then you go through after that, and once you see what people's numbers and performance are after they've gotten their upgrades, then you make those decisions. But even still, there are a lot of fights in Nyalotha that are not good for DPS, any kind. Rathian is one of them. Rathian, you get fucked because you're halfway across the platform for a good chunk of time that you can't damage anything, and everybody's numbers suffer because of that. Especially the people that have to run out the fiery brand thing. Their numbers are going to suffer too, because you have to get that as far away from the party as possible to minimize the raid damage as much as possible. So they get screwed there. Certain classes, certain specs are not friendly for that. Warlocks are one of them. They are literally the slowest class in the game. They have no gap closing. They have no movement increasing abilities other than Burning Rush, which damages you, and you really don't want to do that on Rathian when he's breathing fucking fire everywhere, and you're at half health or low health to begin with, before you all stop so the healer can heal up. You really don't want to be using Burning Rush and killing yourself just to get over there a little faster, to stand there and wait, and take more damage over the course of time. So there's that. Druids aren't so bad. Demon Hunters are great, obviously. Mages are great because they can blink, or if they talent into Shimmer, they can double blink. Warriors have Heroic Leap, and if they use double time, then they get two. No. They only get one Heroic Leap. It's the charge that they get two of. But it turns into Intercept, and they can target party members to charge two. So, ergo, they obviously have that option. Priests get the Feather. Druids get either Stampeding Roar, or they get Cat Form with Sprint. Hunters have a Disengage. They also have their own personal aspect, and they have Post Haste. So Paladins, I'm not really sure. I know they have a Steed Charge. I don't know whether that's both in Ret and Prot, or I don't know. I haven't played Paladin really at all this X-Pack, so I'm not really sure how they work. But literally, Warlock is the slowest fucking class. It always has been. It probably always will be, because Blizzard can't seem to do fuck all with them. But yeah, getting off topic here. I ended up leaving Hand of Avalon today because I don't believe it is fair to judge people off of week-old raid logs and a target dummy, and then say that you made the mistake of, oh, I was looking at the screenshot on my phone. I thought you were doing 26 and not 36 or 38, and I'm sitting there going, how the fuck do you get 20 something? How do you get 2 out of the number 4? Because the first one that I sent was 41.9k. How do you get 20 something out of 4? And even then, there's a zoom in option. And if you didn't know what you were looking at and you weren't sure because it was too blurry, then you wait until you get home and you can view it on your computer, and then you make your decision. So that shit really pissed me off. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right. I've been playing this game a very long time. I know where my DPS comes from, and I know what is and is not, or are and are not, good tools to gauge that DPS by. Week-old logs on fights that half of the time fuck DPS. Not a good gauge. Not a good source of information. But, there are multiple other problems. One of them was that I would try and stream while we were raiding, just in case somebody wanted to watch it. God forbid, I know, right? and the group was very raunchy, very adult, and that's okay. You know, a little bit of that is fine. You know, but you got to remember, there's a lot of people who watch streams. Twitch is very finicky about what they will let you get away with and what they won't. So I ended up just stopping my streaming of Raid because I didn't want to get a Twitch ban because they couldn't keep their mouths under a little bit more control. And I had brought it up twice. I had said, hey guys, you know, yeah, it's that's great and all, it's funny, haha. The first time, yeah, that's funny, okay, whatever, but could you pull it back a little bit, because I am on stream, and, you know, I don't want to get banned on Twitch, and I don't want to get warnings and whatever. And I brought that up twice, and they didn't give a shit. They just kept doing it, so I just shut the stream down. So there's that. They don't have any respect for the things that other people are trying to do. And the other problem, and I've noticed this with a lot of guilds today, is that the purpose behind joining a guild is to join and group up with other people to accomplish goals in the game, to clear content in the game, mythic pluses, dungeons, raids, PvP, whatever it might be. Now, I did notice that every time that I would get a mythic key, whether it was a 2, whether it was a 7, a 9, and what doesn't matter, I would always ask in guild, you know, hey, you know, I've got this Waycrest Manor 2 key. Does anybody want to go do that with me? Hey, I've got a Temple of Sethralus 6. Does anybody want to do that? I've got a Junkyard 6 or whatever. And I think there was once where somebody actually wanted to help me with it. And this wasn't off hours either. This wasn't at like 4 o'clock in the morning. This was, you know, mid-afternoon. There was 48 to 50 people on each time. Nobody seemed interested in actually helping, you know, unless it was one of the, you know, bigger, higher up guys, when they would ask, and then suddenly everybody jumps on it. So, yeah, that's good, you know, teamwork there, guys. Way to be a guild when you don't want to fucking help anybody with anything. But those are my problems with it. That is why I left, among other reasons, such as the cutting people out of raid based on old information. But yeah, don't stay in guilds like that. So that's really all that I have to say about it. You know, and I'm gonna just end it here. And people can think what they want. They can get upset if they want. You know, my intention is not to make people feel bad, but my intention is definitely to say, you're doing this wrong. This is not the way that you treat guild members. This is not the way that you help them. These are not the ways you should be making your decisions based on who you want to raid with you or not. There are people that stayed on that raid list that died to mechanics every fight. But that's fine, I guess. So I guess there was some favoritism in there too. Not the way to run a raid team. I don't give a shit if you're 20 years old. I don't give a shit if you're 30, 40. That's not how you do it. And you can be as upset as you want with me telling me that you're wrong. And you can continue running it whatever way that you damn well please. But as an experienced player, as a former GM, I'm telling you, you're doing it wrong. You know, that is probably why the team cannot progress. But hey, it's not up to me, obviously, so that's all I'm going to say about it. Just keep those things in mind if you are looking at joining a guild or if you're already in one. And I'll see you in another video.